The year is 1807, and across the battlefields of Europe, over 500,000 men are locked in a brutal struggle for dominance. Napoleon Bonaparte's Grande Armée marches through mud and snow, their boots worn to shreds, their uniforms stiff with grime. But the greatest enemy these soldiers face is not the opposing army. It is something far more insidious, something that lurks in every cramped tent, every contaminated water source, and every unwashed body. The enemy is filth itself. To understand the reality of hygiene during the Napoleonic Wars, one must first abandon all modern notions of cleanliness. There are no field showers, no disinfectants, no understanding of bacteria or viruses. The soldiers of 1807 live in conditions that would horrify even the hardiest of modern campers, and they do so for months or even years at a time. The average infantryman in Napoleon's army owns exactly one uniform. This wool coat and trousers become his constant companion through rain, snow, heat, and the inevitable filth of military life. Washing the uniform is nearly impossible. Water is scarce and often needed for drinking or cooking. Even when water is available, there is no soap to spare for laundry. The harsh lye soap of the era is reserved for the officers or for sale at exorbitant prices in the supply wagons. As a result, the common soldier's clothes become encrusted with layers of sweat, mud, and the residue of campfire smoke. The fabric stiffens and takes on a life of its own, standing upright even when removed from the body. The smell of an army on the march is legendary among the civilians who witness it. Travelers report detecting the odor of Napoleon's columns from several miles away, a pungent mixture of unwashed humanity, horse manure, rotting provisions, and the acrid smoke of countless cooking fires. The soldiers themselves become noseblind to their own condition, no longer noticing the stench that clings to every fiber of their being. Personal hygiene is a luxury that few can afford. The morning routine of a soldier does not include a wash basin or a mirror. Instead, he might splash his face with whatever water is available, often from a stream that has already been contaminated by the thousands of men and horses upstream. Shaving is an occasional event, reserved for inspections or special occasions. Many soldiers grow beards simply because maintaining a clean shave requires a razor, soap, and clean water, all of which are in short supply. The state of dental care is equally grim. Toothbrushes are virtually unknown among the rank and file. Some men use a frayed stick or a piece of rough cloth to scrub their teeth, but most simply go without any dental hygiene at all. The diet of hard biscuits, salted meat, and whatever can be foraged takes a heavy toll on teeth. By the end of a long campaign, many soldiers have lost several teeth, not to enemy fire, but to decay and infection. The issue of sanitation in a military camp is a logistical nightmare that no general has truly solved. When an army of 50,000 men makes camp for the night, they create a temporary city that produces waste on a staggering scale. The official regulations call for latrines to be dug at the edge of camp, deep trenches that serve as communal toilets. However, discipline often breaks down, especially during rapid marches or in the chaos of battle. Men relieve themselves wherever convenient, and the camp quickly becomes a hazardous landscape of human waste. The latrines that are dug offer no privacy and no comfort. They are simple trenches, sometimes with a log placed across them for seating. Men squat shoulder to shoulder, conducting their business in full view of their comrades. The smell is overwhelming, especially in the summer heat when flies swarm in thick clouds. These insects become carriers of illness, moving freely between the latrines and the food supplies. What did soldiers use for personal cleaning after using these facilities? The answer is both simple and harsh. Whatever nature provided. Leaves, grass, moss, and even handfuls of snow serve as substitutes for the toilet paper that does not yet exist in any practical form. The wealthy officers might carry strips of old linen for this purpose, but the average soldier makes do with what he can find. This primitive method leads to constant irritation and contributes to the spread of intestinal parasites, which are so common that they are considered a normal part of military life. The water supply is perhaps the most critical and most dangerous aspect of camp hygiene. An army requires enormous quantities of water for drinking, cooking, and caring for the thousands of horses that pull the artillery and supply wagons. The soldiers draw water from rivers, streams, and wells, often without any consideration for what lies upstream. It is not uncommon for men to fill their canteens from the same river where dead horses are rotting, or where hundreds of soldiers have just relieved themselves. The medical officers of the era have some understanding that bad water causes illness, but they attribute it to miasma, the theory that diseases come from foul air rather than contaminated water itself. Their solution is to add wine or vinegar to the water, which does provide some antimicrobial effect, though not for the reasons they believe. Those who can afford brandy or rum add it liberally to their drinking water, both to kill the taste of impurities and to achieve a small measure of comfort in their miserable existence. Bathing is a rare luxury, reserved for those fortunate enough to be stationed near a river during warm weather. When the opportunity arises, soldiers strip down and plunge into the water, scrubbing their bodies with sand or gravel in lieu of soap. These mass bathing sessions are chaotic affairs, with hundreds of men crowding into the water at once, their pale bodies marked with scars, bruises, and the telltale red bites of lice and fleas. Lice are the universal companions of every soldier, regardless of rank. These tiny parasites live in the seams of clothing, emerging to feed on human skin and causing relentless itching. The soldiers call them arithmetic because they seem to multiply endlessly. During rest periods, men can be seen sitting in the sun, running their fingers along the seams of their uniforms and crushing the lice between their thumbnails with satisfying pops. This activity, known as reading one's shirt, becomes a daily ritual and a form of social bonding. The officers fare only slightly better than their men. They have access to traveling trunks that contain a few precious items: a bar of soap, a razor, perhaps a small mirror. Some officers employ a personal servant who ensures their uniform is brushed and their boots are polished, maintaining the appearance of military discipline even in squalid conditions. But even Napoleon himself is not immune to the challenges of campaign hygiene. Historical accounts describe the emperor taking hasty baths in portable tubs filled with heated water, a luxury that requires the labor of several men to prepare. The medical consequences of these unsanitary conditions are catastrophic. For every soldier who falls in battle, 4 or 5 succumb to disease. Typhus, spread by lice, tears through the ranks with devastating efficiency. Dysentery, caused by contaminated water and food, leaves men too weak to march, forcing them to fall behind, where they either recover or perish by the roadside. Cholera appears like a vengeful spirit, striking entire regiments and leaving them decimated within days. The field hospitals are places of last resort, overcrowded tents where the wounded and the sick are crammed together on filthy straw pallets. The surgeons do their best with the knowledge available to them, but without understanding the principles of sterilization, their instruments carry infection from one patient to the next. A soldier with a minor wound might enter the hospital and leave with a fever that proves fatal. Many men prefer to take their chances outside the medical tent, treating their own injuries with whatever folk remedies they know. The winter campaigns bring their own unique horrors. During the infamous retreat from Russia in 1812, soldiers face temperatures that drop far below freezing. The cold preserves the bodies of fallen horses and men alike, creating a macabre landscape. But it also means that water sources freeze solid, and men resort to eating snow, which provides hydration but does nothing to warm the core of the body. Frostbite claims fingers, toes, and noses. Men huddle together for warmth, their unwashed bodies pressed against one another in a desperate bid for survival. Despite these horrifying conditions, the soldiers of the Napoleonic era display remarkable resilience. Their immune systems, constantly challenged by exposure to pathogens, become robust in ways that modern medicine can barely comprehend. They develop a tolerance for conditions that would hospitalize a person from our sanitized world within hours. They learn to identify safe water sources by observing where animals drink, to avoid the worst cases of contamination by boiling water when fuel permits, and to treat minor wounds with wine or spirits to prevent infection, even if they do not understand why it works. There are moments of ingenuity as well. Some units organize themselves to maintain higher standards of cleanliness, recognizing that discipline in hygiene translates to better health and combat readiness. These regiments dig proper latrines, enforce washing schedules, and punish those who foul the camp. Their commanders understand, even without modern science, that a clean camp is a healthier camp. The contrast between the grand strategy discussed in the palaces and the grim reality on the ground is stark. While Napoleon plans the movement of armies across maps, calculating logistics and supply lines, the individual soldier concerns himself with finding clean water, a moment to wash his face, or a chance to rid his uniform of the lice that torment him day and night. The glory of empire is built on the endurance of men who live in conditions of profound filth. Looking back from our modern vantage point, it is easy to judge these conditions as backward or primitive. But the soldiers of 1807 are not ignorant or careless. They are fighting a war with the tools and knowledge available to them. The science of microbiology will not emerge for another 50 years. The connection between sanitation and disease is understood only in the vaguest terms. These men do the best they can with what they have, maintaining their humanity and their pride even as they march through landscapes of mud and waste. The legacy of the Napoleonic Wars includes not just the redrawing of maps and the rise and fall of empires, but also hard-won lessons about the importance of military hygiene. Future generations of soldiers will benefit from the painful knowledge gained during these campaigns. But in 1807, the men of the Grande Armée fight not only against enemy armies, but against the relentless assault of their own unwashed reality, proving that sometimes the greatest battles are fought not with muskets and cannons, but with the simple human desire to maintain dignity in the face of overwhelming filth.